No, that's totally fine.
It's in grabbing distance. It's like the stuff I tell my son never to do.
Yeah.
Just because you see it doesn't mean you have to touch it.
No, that's cool. That's what it's there for.
Yeah.
But yeah, I was going through the same thing when you were talking about podcasting and how the apps they take up so much space on your phone.
Yeah.
So do you have an iPhone or do you have?
I have an iPhone. Yeah.
So one of the things that I've done for mine, at least, is I've gone in and done the customized. Like you can customize how many podcasts get downloaded. So I only keep the 3 most current, and anything after that, it's like I don't. Yeah, I don't save or I don't keep anything after that.
Yeah, I didn't even look into it when I realized I was downloading everything.
Yeah,
it makes sense, but in my mind it was just all or nothing, and I was just like nothing. Forget it.
Dude, so what else you been up to lately?
I started school again. I'm going over to Hancock.
Really? What are you taking?
I'm just taking one math class. I'm just taking Algebra 2.
Oh, okay.
And so, because it's been about 5 years since I did Algebra 1, and I passed.
I would hope.
But it was a struggle. And so, and I was doing exactly what they all said, like never to do kind of thing. It was like, don't, if you struggle with Algebra 1, just go and knock out Algebra 2.
Yeah.
But I didn't want to do that.
Yeah.
And so and also I didn't think I was ever going to really apply it and stuff like that. And I was like, yeah, it's whatever. I'm going to, my plan for using my, cause I only had 1 semester left for my VA bill, my GI bill. And basically I was kind of using that as like as a lifeline, because, when I had to use it the first time was, I had just like been out of work and I needed an income, and I was like, oh wait, I know I could use my GI Bill and get paid to go to school. So I'm gonna do that. And then while I was in school, I got in a situation where I worked myself out of that.
Yeah.
And so I was like, I got this 1 semester left for my GI Bill. And if I use it, then I won't have that lifeline. I so I was using college as like a worst case scenario kind of thing, which is totally not something you're supposed to do. But and so I'm actually not even using my GI Bill for this one math class.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because to use it, you have to have a full load.
Oh, okay, okay.
I think it's either it's 12 or 14 credits, and I was like, there's no way I can take a full load with this math class. And so with Algebra 2. And so I'm just focusing on that. And
how does the GI Bill work? Like I mean, they pay for you to go to school, but is it like they pay for X amount of units?
Yeah. Well, no, it's not X amount of units. It's X amount of time.
Okay.
It's how many semesters and courses and stuff have you taken? And no, I'm sorry. It's an X amount of money.
Okay.
Yeah, they're like, and that's it too, because they recommend that you use it at a community college or something like that,
because you can get like a full ride paid for.
Yeah, you can stretch it out. And there are some guys who take it to a university, and it's gone within a year, like less than a year. You know,
I'd imagine, yeah.
And they're like if you already have college and your next only step is a university kind of thing, then yeah, go ahead and apply it. But for me, who was just using it to get my associates, it's like, I mean, just take it to a community college. And actually, I was the first time I used it was to pay for my trade school
really?
Yeah, up in Washington. There's some trade schools that would feed into that. And then even when I was with the local union, I was with a heavy equipment union. I had the option of applying it there too, because you have to do their little school stuff while you're in there.
Yeah.
And so, I don't think I applied it there, but, so a good chunk of it was like a good quarter of it was taken from the trade school, which was great and totally perfect at the time.
Yeah.
And made living in a hotel that much easier, you know? So,
Dude, it's interesting how these needs change over time.
Yeah.
Like I've been off and on with going to community college for the past couple of years.
Yeah.
Like initially I went so that I can take the welding courses and do that. And I thought that was going to be it for me. I'm not going to take any other classes, just welding.
Yeah.
I'll start welding and then this will be it for the rest of my life.
Yeah.
And very quickly that changed. It's like, nope, this isn't going to be my end all be all. So then I found myself going back and taking a couple classes thinking, well, maybe I'll work for my associates. And then I landed in another career field outside of welding. And I was like, well, no, I don't have time for school now. And then now with the kids and my wife finishing up her bachelor's now, it's like, well, why don't I just go and get a degree and, you know, just use it as like a backup.
Yeah.
I'm happy with where I work, but you never know. It's always good to continue and expand your knowledge base.
Totally. And like you said, it is like a kind of like a backup thing. And I'm able to look at it now and see, I was like, okay, that last decade of my life, I totally had a sought out plan, and man, that plan moved around like 3 or 4 times, you know?
Yeah.
And so now I'm able to decide, I was like, okay, you know, I'm just going to do school just so I can stay flexible.
Yeah.
Because who knows how I'm going to be able to apply this. And so I'm looking at a bachelor's that can be shot into like a bunch of different fields and stuff. I'm looking at social studies of liberal arts, or a liberal arts degree.
Oh, okay.
And so, because it seems like everything I keep looking at that requires some college education, that is applicable to all those different fields. And so, because I'm still trying to figure out what I want to be when I grow up, you know? But luckily, like for your case, for me going from welding and then hitting the career that you're in now, like it still relates, doesn't it? And so
it does. I mean, welding and manufacturing or machining, you still have to know how to read prints. You still need to know your basic algebra and, well, with machining, some more trigonometry. But, well, I think we had to use trig as well when doing things like handrails and working with rise and run when building staircases and things like that. So
understanding the metal.
Yeah, that too.
that's kind of, I feel like welding's the base of, is just like, this is metal. This is how it acts. This is what you need to know of putting things together. And so I figure machining, you still need to know, okay, this is metal.
Yeah. And a lot of it too, it's like I talk with some of my coworkers, like I use the term like machining with soul. Sometimes it's like you kind of have to go off feel.
Really?
Like what do you think it's going to feel like when you're cutting that?
That's because I feel like since you're making something, I mean, it makes sense because that's exactly how it is with wood. I love doing woodworking.
Yeah.
And my favorite woodworking projects are the ones that I don't have a plan for.
Yeah.
That I'm just kind of just going with how it works. And but I feel like metal is so much more, I don't know, indefinite. And so you have to have it planned out.
I feel like metal is much more forgiving in the sense that a lot of old timers back when I was welding would say, you know, carpenters have to get it right.
Yeah.
Because show me the wood welding that you can't do it.
No, that's true.
Maybe it's a lot of glue and sawdust to fill those cracks. But
you know, now there is a lot of those different fillers and things like that. But if you're doing like straight framing, you know, then no. A table that's not level, you know, that just because of the warp of the board.
But I mean, you see like what I got going on here, and I mean, I had purchased a skill saw, and then I have a couple other tools that translate from ironworking to woodworking. So I have like a portaband saw and a reciprocating saw, certain things like that. And I feel like woodworking has sort of slowly becoming like a guilty pleasure.
Oh yeah.
Like I've got, you know, stored up wood. I feel like I'm going to start building a rack in the back, and I'm watching videos on YouTube. Like that looks fun. And it's simple. Like welding is so loud and so it's fun too, but I think like woodworking is much more calming.
They're both messy, you know, and so you're gonna make a mess with. But at least woodworking, you can get a fan or like something just sucking all the sawdust as you're working with it.
Yeah, exactly. And I don't think neighbors get too crazy when it comes to working with wood. They're like, okay, he's just chopping wood. But if they see like arcs flashing from your garage, they're like, whoa, what's going on over there?
Oh, definitely. And there's even regulation for that kind of sense. I was like, hey, you have to have a screen up if you're putting out a certain amount of, was it just however bright the
ultraviolet lights of the arc. Yeah, you can blind people.
Oh, definitely. Yeah, and so that's something that they didn't ever have in country and like in Afghanistan and stuff like that. You know, just didn't worry about that, but still.
Oh yeah, that's right. You were doing like construction work out there.
Yeah, well, we would. I was working with. Actually, I was working with one of the only machinists in the Marine Corps. There's only like 2 or 3, and I just so happened to have one of the 3 in this like far off region in Afghanistan. The FOB I was at was called Castle, and basically it was right up against the border of Pakistan, and so they had this machinist just because it was so far out there that I was like, if we can't get a part to you, we need to have somebody who can at least try to make something. Was
he civilian or he was actually enlisted?
He was actually enlisted. And that's what I was like. And so he was a super rare guy. I think he was a kind of a troublemaker. He was either like an E2 or E3 because he kept getting busted down. But he was so needed that it didn't even matter because...
So I'm curious about that because I recently went to visit with my brother. He's in the Air Force, and he does precision calibration on equipment, on precision measuring equipment. And so he took me on a little mini tour of what he does, and I'm like, oh, that's cute. That's nice. You know, you got little machines and doodads and things that you bring the measurements back to where they need to be or calibrate them. But then he took me to the machine shop / welding shop, and it was massive. And they had such an amazing like shadow board. Everything was super organized. And I was thinking to myself, well, I understand things on base probably need to be repaired or fixed, but is there anything that's done that then gets sent out to, say, people who are out in the field? And in your case, like what is it that they're machining? I mean, is it just replacement parts, say for service vehicles? Is it? I mean,
for where I was, it was like replacement parts. Like I was and just in the need of dozer teeth, you know. And
dozer teeth. Yeah, I can imagine welders are probably super busy out there.
Yeah, for the most part, you know. And that was mainly what he was doing. Is he was doing a lot because he didn't have the kind of equipment that he needed. So for something that was super nuts. That we would have to get it from the stateside from one of those parts, and then they would ship it over to him. And then if he needed to adjust it a little bit, he'd be able to be there to kind of was like, oh, you know, they got it pretty close, but we just need to just kind of adjust the teeth size of this cog or whatever kind of stuff.
So what is the branch, I guess, of the Marine Corps? Because I know of the Seabees in the Navy,
right?
But does each branch of the military have their own specific units that do this stuff, or?
Not really, in a sense. Usually, it like for the Marine Corps, it was the engineers.
Okay.
And they would all kind of fall under most of the engineer trade and stuff like that. And so, and I believe the Army is the same way. The Air Force runs on their own program. I don't even try to keep track with how they operate, and so and none of our stuff ever like talks to each other with it, and so it's kind of difficult. But so in that sense, I guess it would be just the engineers, and that's what I was in the Marine Corps. I was an engineer in the Marine Corps, and now I'm a Seabee, and so, but there's a different camaraderie sense, and when it comes to like the Navy's Seabees and the Marine Corps engineers. Like the Marine Corps engineers were like, we're all Marines. Oh yeah, I'm an engineer. Or he was like, oh yeah, we're all Marines. Oh yeah, I'm motor T or something like that.
Yeah.
But the Navy having with the Seabees, it's kind of like, no, I'm a Seabee. Oh yeah, I'm in the Navy. You know, kind of.
Oh, okay.
It's a little bit more segregated.
I gotcha.
In that sense, and so, and then you have like admin sailors that will go branch off and help the Seabees, and then they're there and hooking and jabbing with us too, pretty much, you know. And so it's almost like we integrate people into the Seabees, but it's never like one giant shipmate force kind of thing. And so yeah, I guess to me it feels like if someone was like, oh yeah, you're a machinist, so you're like a welder. It's like, well, I mean, yeah, it's like I can do that, you know, but it's really not what that is. And so
they're more about title than about the actual branch.
Yeah. And so, but to answer your original question, would be that, yeah, there is a lot of cases where the civilian side, or not civilian side, the state side would have to machine something or produce something and then send it out. And so as far as in country, I don't know about some of the more critical zones. But there's a lot of other, man, I mean, we've never left a country that we've occupied. And so we have bases pretty much in every country of the world, kind of thing. And so for those places that don't have the resources and things like that, then the stateside main shops, those big places, will manufacture it and then send it out to them.
I gotcha. Yeah, because I was thinking like, man, would they have to like commandeer a shop,
right,
and say, we're here, and you know, we're gonna have to use your facilities and
at gunpoint.
Yeah.
If you don't like it, tough.
But I mean, the fact that they're there, and I mean the network that's developed too. If maybe there's something going on in a country where there is activity going on and they need parts, but you guys have a base already overseas that is also semi-equipped, can probably get a part to them faster until maybe stateside can churn over exactly what they need.
In a perfect world, you know, that's how it works. But at the same time, I felt like every single time that we'd be in a need or something like that, or for the most part, if it wasn't in some remote scenario, it would be contracted.
Okay.
And there's a lot of civilian contract force, and so that would handle a lot of that. And then even on the bases, like on Leatherneck, there's the whole civilian sector side of that, where they have all their higher echelon shops that are working side by side with the military, but it's still like a company, you know. And so I have a lot of buddies that were in the mechanics, the heavy equipment mechanics. Actually, I have one buddy in particular. It started with an A, Andre, or anyway, really good mechanic. We left Afghanistan together, and he got out of the Marine Corps like in that month.
Yeah.
And then just went right back to Leatherneck, went right back to where we were, just to get because he got a job as one of those third shop contractors. And so it was just a constant rotating thing. And so, man, I totally would have done that, but they don't really have that kind of element for the stuff that I wanted to be doing heavy equipment wise.
Yeah.
And so, but the contractor work is pretty much, it's a heavy business. It's really well paid.
That's what my brother has expressed to me, that though the military, they take care of you financially with your housing and among other things. Once you decide to reach out into the civilian world to look for jobs within your same field, mm-hmm. oftentimes that money is, I mean, it's very, very enticing.
Yeah, it is.
And so I don't know if that's the reason why the military, when someone's contract is coming up, they're really trying to keep you, because they know that depending on whatever it is your skill set is, the civilian world wants to offer you more.
Yeah, no, it is. And there's this whole kind of, like, I don't know, conspiracy element to it or whatever, but a lot of those contracting companies are owned by prior heavy enlisted or heavy officer, heavy ranked prior military individuals. And so they get these contracts by basically rubbing elbows with the guys who are offering them and then they're just kind of like, hey, you know, I heard you need this, and they're talking about putting up a contract. Why don't you cut me into that, you know? And then when you get out, you'll just be right there with me, you know?
That's interesting. I can see how that would work.
Yeah. and it's not really like not legit.
Yeah.
You know, it's these guys who just have figured out the system.
Well, and it's networking in a sense too, I would think.
Oh, definitely. And it's a good old boy system.
Yeah.
And that's where it kind of gets a little shady, where not necessarily the best position or best person for the job is going to get there, because I was like, no, man, that guy, he was in the rough with me. You know? Like, how could I not swayed in his direction? And so I was like, yeah, you know, he might not be allowed in the country anymore, but still, like, we're a dirty individual. But
that was a conversation we were having about just the economics of things, or the economics of the world, and how, you know, it really just, people want to talk about what's fair in life.
Yeah.
And when we're talking about these just social filters that people have to go through, with one regard, it can be with admissions to universities. In this one, it can be the acquisition of government contracts or jobs. And whereas people on the outside might look at like, well, that's not fair that he gets one because they served together overseas or whatever. I can do the job better, or I might be bidding less for the work. It's one of those social filters, unfortunately, that exist. It's who you know. It's you can't make it first come, first serve, because you're leaving out the people who don't wake up early, or you're leaving out the disabled who can't make it there fast enough. I mean, someone's getting left out. Always,
you know, in one sense or the other. But, and even in that sense, that it's a social filter and stuff like, and that you can't be too upset at the person who's given the job out or whatever, giving the contract out for taking somebody they know, because if they have personal relations and know that this is a reliable individual,
or that too, yeah,
you know, then maybe that's a good reason not to go with somebody who's going to be bidding lower. Yeah, because I was like, I mean, I don't really know you. I know that you're going to do the job. Everything says that you're going to do the job just as well, but you'll do it cheaper. But I know for a fact that this guy wakes up at 4:30 a.m. with a cup of coffee in his hand, and goes until 9 o'clock at night, you know, kind of thing.
And I think it is the outliers who make it look bad. Yeah. Like, I got the government contract and I'm just sitting on my hands and we're just raking in that government money. Yeah. Because we're signed on for the next 30 years. Yeah. So
and there's nothing they can do. Yeah. And so there's things I could be doing, but yeah.
There's a couple engineers that I've had conversations with who worked in aerospace, and I'm not sure the tolerances that are required for some of the things that you guys might have gotten out in the field, but at least here stateside, there's like a huge list of paperwork and procedural things that you have to do. And working in construction myself, I know that, yes, it does need to be to print, but when it finally gets in the field, it also has to work.
Yeah.
So your prints, I might have them, but it might not be that way once it's installed.
once it actually gets there.
Yeah.
Kind of thing. Yeah. No, the tolerances are pretty similar. We do a pretty good job of making it similar, and so in some degree.
Yeah.
You know, obviously there's going to be a lot of the stuff with the
like, is there someone checking you? Is there QC, or is there like an inspector?
There's an internal inspector for those things like that. We just pretty much have, because annually for most places, for most shops, depending on the severity and what kind of equipment, some like that was just heavy equipment. for some things that are more technical and more life risking and stuff like that, they have much more frequent inspections.
Yeah. I imagine for like aircrafts and things like that.
Right. And so, oh man, like, and also it depends on where you're actually located for certain things. General, I know, Marine Corps wide, we would pretty much have an inspection of quality control and stats and everything, of your paperwork, of your a lot of record checking and stuff like that. And then also vehicle operation, making sure that it's all actually, it's like, okay, you said that this piece of equipment is running fuel a little hot, like prove it, kind of thing. Okay,
yeah.
This is, I was like, all right, sweet. But then when we were in Japan, or when I was in Japan, we would have biannual inspections, because we would have one, since we were working side by side with the Japanese, we would have our stateside stuff for our hazmat, and then the Japanese would come through and then check the stuff that actually involves them, like mainly our hazmat stuff.
Yeah.
And so it's like, okay, is everything all up to spec? You don't have any leaks that are draining into the drains, because all goes right into the ocean and stuff.
Oh yeah. I think there's some countries that are way more strict on it.
Yeah.
And then there's others that you hear about, I mean, that they're just like, yeah, just put it in the dirt. It doesn't matter.
Yeah. Which is really convenient. But and so like how we worked was basically like, we have our set of standards.
Yeah.
That, like, stateside, we will carry those everywhere we go. If someone has higher standards, we will go and meet to their standards. If someone has lower standards, that sucks. We're going to stick with the standards that we have stateside, And so until you're in those situations or whatever.
Yeah.
But
so in the Marine Corps, it was heavy equipment. Are you able to talk about what you build in the Seabees? Yeah, no,
I'm doing I'm still doing heavy equipment, but I'm in the reservist, and so I'm in a non-deployable unit.
Okay.
And because the unit that I'm in is focused on training other Seabees and other heavy equipment individuals and stuff like that. But because I'm in a non-deployable unit, and I'm required to have a certain amount of active time, which would be like, if I want to deploy, it needs to be available for me.
Yeah.
And I also have to do like a 2-week active time, like doing something. My unit will pretty much, if I can find an open spot for like a 2-week mission in Africa, it's like, hey, this other unit's going out. And they just so happen to need a heavy equipment operator. My unit will do everything they can to make me get there, which is really cool, because deployable units will hold their individuals, because they're like, no, we want you to use your active time the way we need it, and so, but this one that I'm with are like, no, we want you to use your active time in any way that you really can.
Yeah.
And so I was like, oh, sweet. Thanks. And so that's how I was able to jump on a different unit to go to Hawaii.
Okay.
And then I was able to extend that 2 weeks into a month and do RIMPAC, which is coming up again. And so I've been holding on to my time, kind of hoping that maybe I could go back and do that again. But there's a project we're doing it like in Antarctica or something like that.
Really? Man, you guys are all over the place.
Yeah, like I said, like everywhere in the world. You know? And so, but this project I want to try to jump on. If I know about it, I don't think it's secret.
Well, like, I guess we can just give examples then. Like, so if is there like a job board that's up, and it's like, there's a bridge and say in Antarctica they need built, or there's, a dozer that someone needs to drive over here. Is it kind of like you just put your name in the hat and then seniority usually, or unit based, or?
Yeah, there is the seniority, and there is this like a job board. It's an online thing where you just check, and it's like, oh, hey, what are the different options and what are the different things that are happening right now?
And they usually tell you like about how long it will be.
Yeah.
They usually give you risk assessment, or there's like maybe code words like hot territory, and you think, okay, well, it's not temperature they're talking about.
Yeah, they do. Because I was like, I don't know, I've never really looked for that. I've never really cared. And so, but no, there is, and so in the sense of
you're out there and it's like, dude, I thought this was gonna be cake, and I got bullets flying now. What's going on here?
It tells you like where you're going, and so and everyone has a pretty much good idea of what the temperate zone is, in that area.
Yeah, you're going to Hawaii. It's like, oh, okay, it's not too bad. Not too
exactly,
bad.
But there's some places like this place, Djibouti.
What?
Yeah, and I'm trying to remember where that is.
You're not joking, right? Like, that's a real name?
Yeah.
Okay, Djibouti.
Djibouti. And
I got to go to Djibouti.
And everyone's like, don't go there. It's miserable. It's so disgusting. It's hot. It smells bad, and stuff like that.
Really bad name for all those things to be associated with it.
I think it's in Africa or something like that, and... But dude, like I was like, no, that sounds perfect. That's exactly like the kind of, I was like, I want to experience that, And so like, let's set the bar, and then everywhere else from there would be awesome.
Yeah.
So.
Oh, geez. And then getting there, it's pretty much just any which way, shape, or form that the military has available.
Yeah.
I mean, boat, plane.
It's usually flying.
Oh, okay. And then it's what's it? Those transport planes.
Yeah, the big old can of whoop ass, and that I can't remember what type that they run. It's not C-130s. It used to be.
I was listening to Jocko Willink talk about traveling on those and how people think, oh, it's probably terrible, but it's how you set up like beds. I mean, it's like a full on. You got a big space.
Yeah, a lot of the time it is, and so like I actually for like when we fly into Afghanistan, we take commercial airline all the way to a closer non-hostile country, and then from there we will fly it on something that it's more like you see with the photos with like the cargo netting on the side and stuff like that.
Okay.
And there's usually a lot of space and things like that. But that flight, if you are on a flight that is slightly miserable, they won't make it for more than a couple hours, And so it's not like you're doing some 12 plus hour flight, just like shoulder to shoulder with somebody and just trying not to get your neck to uncrack or whatever.
Yeah.
But no, the traveling in the military has always been pretty good. I did this one that what was that for? I was going from Japan to Hawaii, and it was Japan to the Philippines. I don't know. I can't remember which one I was going to, but we got on this. It was almost like a yacht. It was like this. It was this really, really nice, spacious boat.
Like a luxury boat.
It was that had like a dance floor and had a bar on the other side and stuff. It was like a small little cruise liner kind of thing. It was some sort of yacht kind of thing.
Oh,
that was able. There was only there's only like less than 100 of us, and so there's the main like cabin seating area, but they had a card room, and so a bunch of us were over there playing spades and stuff, and so
making the most of the trip.
It was nuts, and I was like, what the heck is going on? But that's all right. And I can't remember like like we didn't do the whole trip on that. It was just taking us to a different harbor so that we could, or a different area so we can get on a plane that was better. But man, I can't even. That's weird. But I just remember being super hungover and like thinking I was going to get on some miserable tin can, and ended up being. I was like, "What the? I'm on a yacht. How did this? Are we going to the right place?"
Yeah, like you on the right boat.
Yeah, exactly. But no. They do have the military cruise liners and stuff like that. Like Muse or whatever that are much more like. You have a 6-foot hole in the wall, and there's 3 beds stacked on top of each other, and these tiny little spaces that that you have to fit into, and those are a little bit more miserable, but they're bigger like boats, so you can at least walk around and do some stuff like that. And they usually have like gyms and things.
So you'd never had to travel like say by, or I think it would probably be out of place to maybe travel by sub or travel by like have to parachute into a location or anything like that.
No, I've wanted to.
Really?
Yeah. Actually, when I got out of the Marine Corps, when I was trying to decide if I wanted to stay in or get out, I was pretty sure I wanted to get out because it was in 2011. And we were doing, it was mid Obama, and he was making a big pull to get the majority of the forces out. And so there was only one more deployment going for my unit after, if I was to re-enlist, and it was basically just to go and break everything down and start bringing things in.
Okay.
And which I knew was going to be kind of heart-wrenching too, because I was like, wait, we just fought to get all that and to put everything over there, and now you're saying that in like 6 months or a little bit more, like by next year, you're going to send us back out to go break us. And it's like, no, well, we're there. It's going to be there for some other country. They're going to stay and occupy it. Yeah. It's like, oh, like they occupied that base, which is on fire, kind of stuff. And so I was like, great. Yeah, sweet. And so, but when I was deciding if I wanted to re-enlist, knowing that it wasn't going to be for the deployments, I wanted to go to jump school. I was like, and so I told it's basically like the mid and, recruiter. It's like anyway, when I was talking to the guy who was going to re-enlist me, the career counselor, I was like, yeah, I'm thinking I want to re-enlist, but I want to go to jump school. Can we do that? And he said, no, that is all full up. Do you have any other things that you want to do? It's like, I don't know, what's open? And he was like, you could go to this course where you basically do security tactics. I was like, that sounds like cool. That sounds all right. It was like, yeah. And then you go through the OC course. I was like, what? And he's like, well, you have to, that's where they pepper spray you a bunch, and then you have to run through and they hit you with sticks. I was like, wait, are you trying to get me out? Like, I thought your job was to make me want. He's like, a lot of people want to do it. A lot of people think that it's something cool. It's like, I want to jump out of a plane. I don't want to get sprayed with mace.
Yeah.
And so I was like, sorry, dude, this isn't what I'm going to re-enlist for. And there's no bonuses. And they were actually in the sense of kind of downsizing at the time anyway, because they were pulling everybody out. And so,
what was the general census, did you feel at the time when they heard about that? Because clearly there were people here stateside that they wanted their soldiers to come home. Mm-hmm. And then over there, for the people who were enlisted, they were able to see a different side that people here, they didn't get to see.
Yeah.
And when you mentioned that, well, we fought for all of this, now we're just going to tear it down and bring it back. I mean, was that kind of the general tone?
Yeah, for the most part, it was kind of like one of those, well, that's the job, It's like, and so that's it. There is always those people who, I mean, it's mixed. I'm going to say that it's definitely, there's more people that were like really pissed off and really weren't like, I know a lot. I talked to a lot of guys who, and even myself, when you find out, there was like, oh shoot, we lost singing. It's like, damn, like that was like, I like, there's a lot of loss that we worked for that, and just for basic, it feels like nothing, and then and so you take all this pride of something that you feel like you accomplished that was basically just disregarded, and then you start dealing with the fact it was like, well, why were we there in the first place? Like, what was all that even for?
Yeah.
You know? And so, but when you feel like it's going to last, then it is more of an accomplishment. And so,
like it wasn't for nothing.
exactly. But the guys who have been in longer, who have seen the system in the rotation and know that it's like, no, this is just part of the rotation. Yeah, we go, we fight, we put it up, you know, we let somebody else take it over. They let the enemy have it back.
Yeah, they try their best.
Yeah, you know, not without fight. But and then sometimes we go and we take it back again, or sometimes we're like, no, like, and so you have to look at it as like, we needed that location for that specific reason at that time, and once it's not needed anymore, there's no reason to hold on to it. And so that's basically how it needs to be looked at. As upsetting as, you know, all the effort and stuff goes to.
Yeah, people might take pride in that sense that, just like you said, we fought for this and we're holding this, and there is a bigger picture in play that maybe some people can't grasp, or they're not cool with that. It's like, no, we fought for this, we should keep it. And
and then you start attaching lives to it and like personal relations. Stuff. And then I was like, well, what was he like? Why did he do that? You know, I was like, he gave everything so that we could have that spot. And so, are you saying that he died for nothing? You know, and
that's what's got to be a real gut wrenching moment when, you know, just the politics and actual lives.
Once it becomes personal.
Yeah, once it becomes personal.
Yeah.
I mean, we've talked about this, and I've had coworkers, we talk about this, just having old folks making decisions that young folks have to carry out and do, and it's kind of like,
oh yeah, yeah. And and it's crazy too, because now we're becoming into the age where we're actually having to make the decisions for the young folk to carry out. And so, and the only thing we could do is just kind of look at how it was when we were in the other shoe. And I was like, okay, can we make this better? Can we do it better for them in the future?
Every year I get older and I think to myself, at first it happened with my perspective of law enforcement. I always have a respect for the people who are set in place to, like, police officers and firefighters, but more so like police officers who have to keep the peace and do all this. And though there's just negative press, there are, I feel, a lot more good people in law enforcement. And the older I get, the more I realize that they're just people too.
Yeah.
They're no different than me. And as I'm getting older, it's like, well, I could have just done that job too. What makes them any different from me? And as the years go on now, I'm coming close to the age of maybe a senator or a person who is a president. And I think to myself, well,
what?
They're not any smarter, any more special or anything than me. They're just a regular person who's, of course, their path, and like we talked about earlier, who they knew, their networking, navigated them into that position.
Who their parents are.
Yeah. And so,
exactly.
So there's really no difference between us. We're all very, very similar individuals. And
but still we end up having this thought in our mind with like the role that they play of,
well, older people know better, or
like superhumans.
Yeah.
You know, and
they can do no wrong because they're in this position that we revere as has a much higher standing.
Yeah. And now that we're kind of getting like to that point of our lives where we see, I was like, dude, that guy's the same as me, and he's in that position. I feel bad for that guy. That's gotta be tough, man. It was like I'm gonna watch him a little closer because, man, I'd be cracking under that pressure. You know?
Yeah.
And so that's what I was like, oh dang, good for you, but whew, better you than me, bro.
Yeah. I mean, people like doctors, lawyers, the education clearly is different for their specialization, but it's nothing that could not have been learned by anybody else.
Exactly.
They just have to have the drive or the ability to retain that education or information. But I think it's all about confidence. When it comes to, you may have experienced this out in the field. I've seen it on job sites. It's the confidence for a person to just make a decision.
Yeah.
Everybody's looking to the other person. And with that decision comes the risk of, if it goes wrong, all fingers are pointed back at you.
Yeah.
But people are looking for someone to just take the authoritative position.
Yeah, definitely. And I always kind of run with the like play of the worst decision that you can make is no decision.
Yeah.
And I was just talking to somebody, and they was like, "Oh, that's weird." I always run with the play of sometimes the best decision is no decision. And then we kind of like went back and forth. I can't remember their argument of why that made sense to them, because even right now I'm like, no, that's dumb. You know? Or then I was basically kind of like, I was like, no, you're making a decision to not make a move.
Yeah.
And staying neutral is still a move. And so, but
yeah, some people try to walk that line, and I feel like I might be that type of person as well, where it's like I try to stay as far in the middle as I possibly can, but still that's having a position on something.
I feel like that's kind of me naturally. I feel like I'm always so average and so like middle of the ground. Yeah. And I can usually always, I was like, oh, I see where this person's coming from. And I was like, oh no, that makes sense. I mean, that makes sense too. I just got the was it the 2020 political voting catalog, whatever.
Yeah, where you kind of get the short version of what it is people are running for and what they're doing.
I'm excited to read it. It's so I've never been like I've usually used it as like a fire starter, you know. And so, but I was like, oh no, this will be a good, interesting read. You know, it's kind of I'm sure some stuff is going to make me upset, but since they're all regular people and that are just like me, they all have their own like reasonings on why they think the ways they do. And so trying to figure out why that is and the logic behind it, but you just have to stay open-minded.
Yeah.
And which is what I feel like a lot of people have a hard time with sometimes. Shoot, I mean, I guess I do too, but
yeah, there are people who are hardliners when it comes to certain things. They're just like, either I am so anti-Chick-fil-A, maybe for what it is they stand for or whatever as a company, but then they can't see the amount of employees that they've put into work or the other charitable donations that I'm sure they do.
Yeah.
They want to look at them for one thing. Or, I mean, if you do that, then you isolate yourself so much from so many things, because I mean, there's so many individuals who aren't about what it is that you believe in. Yeah. And it becomes a very hard life to live, I think.
It becomes lonely.
Yeah.
You know, it'll become lonely. And that's what I've noticed for a lot of people who take hard standpoints on things and let those opinions drive their personal relations. Yeah. Without it becomes lonely. And so when somebody's like, it's like, I can't be around that person, they think the sky is orange, you know. Yeah. It's like, well, I mean, the sky is orange, but it's blue. You know, it's like, well, I mean, yeah, but you gotta understand what they're saying. And so
we were having my buddy Steve and I, we were having a talk about this yesterday, working with individuals in the real world versus kind of like hypotheticals with maybe people who are in prison, and how on the people who find themselves in prison, somewhat they have to segregate themselves between either race or gang. And out on the streets, it's even more segregated even between the races with the different gangs. But for some reason in the workplace, you kind of all just have to toe the line. Yeah. Whatever it is that you're going through or whomever you're against, because we talk about working with individuals who are maybe much more radical in their personal lives or their personal beliefs. He was talking about have I ever worked with, say, a white supremacist or someone who is like that? And I believe I have. I won't name any names or anything like that, but I was
Jeffrey.
Yeah. I was trying to tell him that, I think even within maybe a white supremacist community or group, that you, just like with religion, you have people who believe in it, who through camaraderie might feel cheated by certain things like affirmative action, who might feel like there's not enough of their community within a workplace, so they're not given the same opportunities. And so they'll band together and find camaraderie. But then you'll have extremists. Much like every group, there's always extremists.
Yeah.
So they might be very prideful and feel very, very good about their culture, their race, and everything like that. But yeah, you have extremists too. I mean, you had, what was it? I don't know what African groups were calling themselves at the time, or if there's still any today, but I mean, then you also have Black Panthers, and those were considered, that group was considered much more extreme because they would carry around guns and things like that, and were much more militant.
Yeah.
But in the workplace, it's like you all have to toe the line.
But I feel like even with that was those were the ones that were getting the limelight, were the extremists that were toting guns and stuff like that. I mean, because even with like Black Panthers, it's a mindset, that that's based off of people's experiences and people's opinions, and so that had to have just been like the outline of the community that was inside of it. Yeah, that weren't these like radical individuals that were definitely focused on more of the point of their situation. Yeah,
and the context too that the Black Panthers came about in during the time of Martin Luther King. They were done. Yeah, like they were done with everything that was going on. It was like, change has to happen, and it has to happen right now.
How can we do this the fastest?
Yeah, not tomorrow.
Yeah.
Yesterday.
Yeah. It was like, well, we're serious, so let's hold guns. Yeah, that's pretty serious, man.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. And I was like, I don't want to hold a gun. All right, you're holding a gun though.
Yeah. But I mean, working with people who have differences of opinions and everything like that, it's just, you're going to find these people in all walks of life. And I think that you can very easily hold conversations with people, especially in the workplace. I think the blue collar work world is one of the last frontiers, or last sort of like
melding
pots for people to just be real.
Yeah.
And be raw with one another, because you work in maybe a white collar job, and there's all these certain hoops and obstacles that you need to navigate and avoid without offending somebody. Whereas in a shop, I mean, you just tell it straight up.
Yeah, and you're able to get away with having some more conflict causing opinions and stuff in blue collar, but you still have to know where the line is. And so like you said, it's like, I think I might have worked with a white supremacist, but and he totally probably like was, but he knows that it was like, hey, if I express these opinions, I'm gonna get fired, or I'm gonna cause trouble in the workplace, and then I'm gonna lose this job.
One, blue collar work like construction, for example, is opportunity for those the second time around. Yeah. So that's why I think, because though he was still donning the SS tattoo, I figured, well, it could have been acquired maybe
previously, like a while ago, kind of stuff.
Yeah, it could have been acquired a while ago, and maybe he's just not gotten the time to get it removed. So
yeah,
it's a circumstantial tattoo.
Exactly. And then there's people who hold on to that and was like, no, that's part of my story. That's part of who I am. It's like, no, I'm not about it anymore, or whatever. Or it's still, but
it's a good conversation starter.
Exactly.
It's like, hey, where'd you get that? What's that?
Funny story.
Is that for the Chevy Super Sport? No.
But that is a very awesome vehicle.
Yeah.
And so it is interesting when when you get into that like different blue collar work and stuff like that, to watch the melding pot that happens. And actually, my dad would always tell me, he was a general contractor for and built a lot of the homes out in Point Sal Dunes.
Okay.
And he hired a lot of the locals out there. He didn't know that he was hiring people from rival gangs.
Oh.
And and so they would go out and they would all work, and they would work together on the job site. And it's like their colors came off once, you know, the work bell rang. And it's like, yeah, when they left work on their way home, there was a stabbing a couple times, you know, stuff happened or whatever. But it's that same concept that, you know, when you're at work, you know, it's a different field.
Yeah, you need a job, you need income, and all that other, you know, machismo stuff that has to stay home.
Yeah, definitely. You know, and so
otherwise you're unemployable. You're not gonna.
Yeah, no, you can't provide.
Yeah,
and so because at some point, what your personal beliefs aren't gonna put food on the table, and so unless you're really persuasive.
Yeah.
But, it's like, but then you get into the whole, never mind. Yeah. Like big churches and stuff. But.
I never understood the types that could never, I guess, maybe I feel like gangs and getting into that is like a young man's game.
Yeah.
So whenever I hear of individuals who would call themselves veterans in the gangs or something like that, I think to myself, like, that's still?
Yeah.
Like, you'd think that the real world would have woke you up to the unimportance of that. The unimportance of your one single block.
Yeah.
And the amount of, I guess, the amount of pull that they might have if they were to maybe influence some of these younger individuals, that we have a combined collective, maybe a gang, maybe a Mexican gang or a white gang or anything like that, and move that to maybe drive your local political
that's exactly system. What I was thinking. I was like, could you imagine if you applied that same dedication and that same heart-filled attitude to, ooh, I'm gonna open a food bank. You know? Like, wow.
Yeah, because as I was getting older, I started realizing that I cared about certain things like potholes in the street.
Yeah.
And it's like, why does my street have potholes?
Bro, don't even get me started at that.
I'm like, what am I paying? I'm looking at my taxes.
I just paid $600 and some odd dollars in vehicle registration yesterday. And and then I started I was like, if that's what I paid. And because I was at the school and I was like, there's over 50 parking lots here. I was like, okay. And then I looked up online. I was like, how many vehicles were registered in California? It was like 14 million. Okay, if each one of those is paying what I am, that's about $6 billion.
Yeah.
And just vehicle registration. And I was like, that's all just going to the state, you know? And so I was like, why is there potholes? Well, can't we use like a couple $100 of that to fill that in? Or?
But people aren't going to do anything if they don't know it's there. Yeah. If like, say you're living in a low income neighborhood, or you're living in an area that is just considered an afterthought by the community, the local government is not going to do anything for them because they never show up to the town hall meetings. They never show up to express these feelings. And things like potholes are now driving your property value down, and then it's driving in other people who are of low income, who unfortunately, you know, you get all these other things that kind of just self-propel or self-perpetuate the problem.
Yeah. And I feel like the town halls and stuff, they happen, but I don't feel like it's really everly like advertised. You know? And so it's like I would totally go to if I knew when it was.
Yeah, to be transparent, I've never been to one.
Yeah, me neither. No, totally. But I've never known when they happen. I only hear about them later when the old lady down the street was like,
oh, they're on it. They're always there.
It's like, how did you find? It's like, yeah, and I was like, it's not a mailer. I was like, it's like, is it a fax? Are they doing this by fax? Because I don't have a fax machine. That's the only thing that I can think of. You know,
we were talking about it. There's one of the guys I work with is an avid camper, outdoor liver enthusiast. which I'll talk to you about after we talk about this. He is really upset about what is happening at the dunes.
Oh, really? In what sense?
Apparently, well, he's given me the gist, so I feel like I need to do more research, but I only have his side of the story, is that individuals who live up on the mesa in the really nice, fancy homes are complaining about the air quality because of all the dirt that's being kicked up by the ATVs and the off-roading.
I've heard this.
So because of that, they're wafting in all of this sand and this poor air quality that's making the quality of life, and they're trying to state that, you know, it could lead to a shorter lifespan and all this other stuff. So they want the dunes to be shut down for off-roading.
Yeah.
Just make it a public beach, but no more camping, no more ATVing, no more, you know, 4x4ing or whatever the case may be. And because apparently they hold town meetings for this at times where everyone's at work except for the retired.
Yeah.
Only the retired are able to go there and
complain
about this. And so I believe that they've already begun shutting down certain things, or they're limiting the amount of people that can be out there. And the direction it's going to be a slow draw, but the dunes will no longer be what they are now.
That it's been kind of going in that direction since they started limiting the area for recreational vehicles out there. And you heard the old timers talking about, like, it was like, oh man, no, we there was no fences out here. There was no where you could go, where you couldn't go and stuff.
Oh yeah, for those birds or whatever?
Snowy plovers.
I know.
And so, yeah, and then the snowy plovers, and then there was, and then there was some plant that they had to watch for. Oh, I guess there was some preservation for where the Chumash shell piles.
Okay.
There's giant piles of shells out there.
They're just making it larger and larger, and so, over time, the amount of areas that you cannot be in.
Hard down on. And so eventually, yeah, they're gonna break it down to nothing. But that's just the way of the state.
Well, they also talk about how and it's probably primarily the out of towners. I'll say it's those Bakersfield folk and everybody else who come out and they do their camping and they do their ATVing, but then they leave the mess.
That's a bummer. Yeah, no, and that's they dig a hole, they bury it, and they don't realize that the wind is eventually going to bring that stuff back up.
Yeah, that's one surefire way to pretty much end get it shut down, and it shuts it down for us.
Yeah, exactly. And so and it's a bummer. I partly feel like the idea of the wind quality, I feel like there's better arguments that they could have used if they wanted to get it all shut down. But on the same half, air quality due to all the fires and everything is kind of a hot button. So if they're able to jump on that hot button and to move their agenda, then they're going to. But it's a windy beach.
It is, and that's what my coworker was saying, that it's not just the ATVs. Like, the wind is always going to be blowing that sand in your direction, and it's only the ATVs are going to affect it only during certain wind directions, you know, and because where the ATVs are is pretty far away from the homes, you know. It is. And
so it's not like, and since there's a very regulated speed limit on the beach itself, it's not like anyone's speeding right past their front door and kicking up all this dirt.
Yeah.
And so it would have to be like a northeast wind. If there was a northeast wind, then maybe the ATV's kicking it up over Memorial Day weekend. Yeah, you know, this one time of year when it's really popping out there, or, you know, or 4th of July kind of thing.
Otherwise, it's pretty mellow during the rest of the year.
The air quality is going to be what it is.
Yeah,
and that's what you get for living on the beach.
And I think that his yeah, exactly. And I think that was one of the things that he had mentioned too, was that, you know, they're bringing in like maybe pseudoscientists or individuals with testing equipment that isn't really just giving the most accurate readings. It's giving like a lot of hypotheticals over the course of 50 years. People will experience this, and
I feel like the only way that they're going to be able to actually figure it out is they would have to shut down for a year.
Yeah.
They would have to take a full season, a full year off to be like, okay, from this date to this date, what was the air quality on every single day? Cut the average of that, and then be like, okay, during the active season, what was it? You know, and so it'd be a 2 or 3 year kind of process. But no, for them just to kind of go out and shut it down, like, yeah, that is a bummer. That was a huge part of my life growing up, dirt biking on those dunes.
Yeah.
And so I would imagine if they would have, I can't believe that they're not having an easier time shutting the dunes down due to the deaths.
Yes.
That's out there.
Dude, every year
There's
during,
at least 6.
yeah.
There's at least 6 deaths a year.
The fact that we have ambulances with the off-road tires
Yeah.
that are tearing down Grand Avenue just to get there.
I've had buddies been picked up in them out there, you know? And so it's like,
it gets wild. And I mean, I'm neither here nor there, because I've been to the dunes. I can count on like one hand the amount of times I've been out there. I don't do ATVing. I don't do off-roading, but I also don't care to have that shut down.
Right.
For like, I don't see the reason why.
No.
We have it now, and you're talking about air quality, but there's no real huge like study that's being done about it. I feel like it's a neighbor being complacent about something else. But then when you talk about seeing the flip side of things, say you lived there, and it's like, well, okay, I don't want my air quality to be bad.
Right. Yeah. But it's tough in the sense of because it's been going on for so long, unless there was somebody who's lived there before all of the ATVs and stuff like that, you know, you knew what you were getting into, or you should have known what you were getting into when you signed that paperwork.
Like when you buy a house next to a railroad track.
Exactly. Like
that train is going to come by.
You don't sue the railroad track once you start living there.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, oh, I mean, it's okay. Just not between this hour and this hour while I'm sleeping.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, no, man, that's part of the economic of this area. Like
that makes sense. Yeah. I didn't look at it that way.
It's like we used to have a guy here in Nipomo who was always trying to stop construction and everything, was always trying to he wanted to get most of the eucalyptus trees taken down. He wanted it all back, but he wanted it to be how it was when he first got there. And so he didn't like how it was progressing, and because he said he didn't sign up to live in the place that it's turning into.
Yeah.
And there's a little bit more of a logic sense of that than of moving in and being like, no.
I'm not a huge fan of like the amount of growth that we do here. It's very destructive.
Yeah.
It's not like we're building homes between trees.
Yeah.
We're straight up demolishing huge like acre lots.
Yeah.
In order to make space for concrete and asphalt and houses. And we're not really putting much trees back up.
Doing anything with it. And yeah, we were trying to
I thought if there was maybe like a tree to home ratio would be great. There's some areas that are like this. I want to say
Santa Maria, when I lived in Santa Maria, you had to have a tree in somewhere on your property, and so I was like, that's cool.
A place that's really wild with landscape is, well, when I went up to Washington, there are trees everywhere.
Yeah,
and Thousand Oaks.
Okay,
I mean, there's trees everywhere. There's homes nestled between all these trees.
Yeah, Merced. Where my mom lives, that's called the city of trees.
Yeah,
you know, they're really conscious about all that concept. But what they're doing over here, like on the mesa, it's cool. A lot of the homes, I'm really stoked to have everything developed, but at the same time, what they're also not realizing is the wind that's coming through that those trees used to block.
Oh yeah.
Is just tearing, and now you have all these people, and it's making poor air quality because it's all these pollens and stuff that people weren't usually getting are now getting all freaking out over, And so I've been seeing more people over here at the local grocery store with masks, like during pollen season. And so,
dude, I actually wear one. Like, no joke. I'm wearing my old welding mask.
Yeah.
When I'm doing the lawn.
Oh, I was like, when you go grocery shopping?
No,
yeah.
I'm not that extreme, but when doing yard work, I'll wear a mask now because it gets so intense.
It gets nuts.
But I wanted to ask you about camping because that's one of the things. Yeah. I figured you're the guy.
Let's go. I just got this new Field and Stream 50-liter camp bag.
Really?
I'm stoked.
Dude, so I want to start taking my son camping, or I want to introduce camping to him. I'm probably going to do baby steps and have him camp in the backyard.
Yeah.
And then maybe do like Lopez Lake or Pismo out there at the, near the Butterfly Grove?
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Something simple, just
swamp.
Car camping. Yeah, that swamp.
Yeah.
We'll go there in the summer when some of that water's dried up. But yeah,
Bro,
So pretty much I'm starting from scratch. Last time I went camping, I was a kid myself.
Yeah.
So where are we at with Coleman equipment nowadays? Should I even look at Coleman?
Yeah, you can, but I mean, I wouldn't go the route of going with those old gas lamps and stuff like that,
Yeah, we'll go LED, but like tent wise.
Man. Yeah, that's what you be looking at and stuff. And obviously, it's actually a good brand if you're not looking to invest heavy. They have obviously way gnarlier stuff, but you don't want to go like North Face, or anything like that.
No, we're not going extreme.
Exactly.
We're not winter camping out here.
And that's actually kind of why I stick with most Field and Stream. It's a good brand that's I consider kind of on the higher end of all the things that could be lower, but it's still middle. Like it's like kind of in between high and middle. And so it's good stuff. But I'll tell you, my big mistake with taking my son camping was I took him tent camping at Lopez, and it was good. He was okay. He was okay at time. And then the next time I got a cabin.
Okay. So he got a little spoiled.
And now doesn't want to have a thing to do with the tent. Now that he knows that there's a place that has Wi-Fi, why would I go into a place that doesn't? And so, yeah, that was my big thing. And so now if I'm like using my backpack to go camping and going hiking out, and it's pretty much by myself. And so,
yeah, my wife, she said she'll go camping.
Yeah.
But like in an RV. And I'm like, no. Like we gotta, we gotta rough it.
Start making some like verbal definitions. I was like, okay. Well, it's like, yeah, no, if you want to do that, we'll do that. But let's not call it camping. Let's call it RVing.
Yeah. Because I had a lot of fun. And I remember, breakfast on the Coleman gas burner and sleeping in a tent and being excited to set up and like sweep the leaves out of the way and pitch the tent and all that stuff.
Make your area, kind of. Yeah, no, that is the fun part,
So I'm excited to introduce them to that kind of stuff.
Check out Santa Margarita.
Okay,
dude, I love that place, and so they have a good KOA out there for spots, but that's where I took my son, and that's where we go cabining. And so, but the actual next to the lake itself has some good camping spots.
Okay.
To be able to check that out, and it's tucked away. So Lopez can get busy even on the off years. I feel like there's a lot of times where you're still gonna be next to a bunch of people, and like that's my least favorite part about camping.
Yeah,
is when you're camping and there's a bunch of people around.
Yeah, it feels like it's just like a gypsy community or something like that.
Unless they're your people. If you're going with a big group or whatever, then it's cool. But 9 times out of 10, I'm going out to nature to isolate myself.
Yeah.
And isolate from the world. And so I don't want to go to where else the world is.
Yeah.
And so, Santa Margarita has usually, I mean, unless you're going towards the summer, and then it's always tough. But if you want to really go out there, there's some campsites out of 166 that isn't by any body of water or anything like that, but they're just rural single campsites.
Oh,
And those are tight. Those are I haven't hit one yet. I'm just looking at them right now.
yeah.
But they look totally the area that I want to be. And so I can't go fishing, but still, like, it's.
So then I grew up sleeping on the floor. Where are we at with cot sleeping?
So heavy, so gnarlier now. But even if you want to sleep on the floor, that's good. But the isomat technology today is so much farther than the foam mat that used to be having.
Yeah.
And so, because you want to put a mat down, I mean, you can just sleep on the floor, but it gets cold.
Yeah.
The earth will just absorb any warmth that you have in your sleeping bag, and so you want to put that little filter down in between it. And it used to be that those filters were like these hefty things that were about the size of a rolled up tent. Like, it was like, okay, you have your tent on this part of the bag, and then you have your isomat there. But now they have these mats that they fold like an accordion kind of thing.
Oh, okay.
And so that, and they're real light. And then in the military, we actually have in the Seabees, we got these blow up ISO mats that are inflatable, and they're kind of like on this weird auto inflate system. So you just kind of open it up, and then the bag absorbs, and then you kind of breathe in a little bit to kind of get it more firm, and then it's like your own little air mattress.
The air inside doesn't become an issue getting cold?
No, not usually, because it's just a buffer spot.
Okay.
And so it's as long as it's not like direct contact with the ground, then you should be good. And then plus it's also going to absorb a lot of those rocks that you missed. You know, kicking through and stuff, or I mean, if you're on a slope, you're on a slope, but they have cots and stuff that you're on a slope, you have adjustable legs.
Oh, okay.
And so that you can still get a level sleeping ground and stuff.
Yeah. Because I didn't know if the cot, like if there's air between you and the floor, if that's also like a vacuum to suck heat.
For like open cot, if there's like ventilation, you know, if it's then it can be. But not when it comes to like an isomat, air mattress isomat. It's not gonna, because it's a closed off situation. But if you have something that's circulating air underneath you, then yeah, it's gonna get a little cold. Like when I use the cot, I still put an isomat on top of it.
Okay.
To eliminate that, and then it's also just more comfortable. And so, yeah. But I usually got one or two cots laying around. I don't use them when I go camping a lot, only because it just takes up space, and there's a weight issue. If it's a camping spot that I'm going to back into, just have it with my truck, I might throw it in there, you know, depending on the size of my tent. But for the most part, it's not a necessity. And sleeping on the ground to me is a big part of it.
It's comfortable too, like sleeping on the ground. Yeah.
It gives you more space inside the tent. I mean, I guess not underneath the cot, but it's just a big element to it. But I mean, during the summers when the nights are warm, I grew up on property. Me and my buddies would just go out and take our sleeping bags and then throw them out at the back 40 somewhere, and just sleep outside, no tent or anything, as long as it's nice and warm. Yeah, that's the best way, in my opinion.
Dude, I don't know if I could do that. I've never roughed it that much. Yeah, but
as long as you're in an area that you're comfortable with. It's definitely a backyard activity.
Yeah. So yeah. That's all good stuff. Like, I'm definitely gonna have to check that out. And
you're already on the right track with Yeti.
I know,
dude. That's a mind-bending technology.
It's crazy, like how far they've come with just insulating cups.
Yeah.
I mean, I feel like before Yeti, it was just garbage. Yeah. Before that, like the cup would keep your coffee warmer, maybe like 10 minutes longer.
We didn't know it was garbage.
Yeah.
At the time, we were excited.
And then this came out, and it's like,
this cup keeps my coffee warm until 9 a.m.
Yeah. Like, I was working in Santa Clarita during like the summer, and I would have ice in my cup or in my Yeti. I have like a larger tumbler.
Yeah.
that I keep at work, and I would have ice in that from in the morning when I would go to work, and then all day long, the ice would melt by like 2 when it was like almost time to go home.
My issue with it is honestly it usually insulates it too well, like with the heat, because I'll fill up the coffee in my Yeti, and then I'll put the lid on it, and then there's times where I'll forget about it until about like 1 o'clock. I'm like, oh yeah, I got this coffee, sweet. And I open it up, and it is just as hot when I poured it into that, and I still can't drink it. It's too hot right now, dang it, you know. And so then I have to leave the lid open and leave it out for a while just to cool it down. And so it's like that's usually my struggle.
Dude, I forgot my tumbler. I forgot to take it to work the other day, and I just used one of those like cups that they had at work. And after it, pretty much like I made my coffee, and right after our morning meeting, I set it down at the machine, and it was already like
done.
Yeah, it was already cold.
There's that gravy point that you have to hit with it. It's like, oh, it's too hot. All right, it's perfect now. Drink it now. Drink it before it gets too cold.
You gotta down the whole thing.
Yeah, this is it.
You can't savor it.
No, not at all. So,
dude,
that's fair.
Well, right on, man. I definitely want to thank you for coming back again being on here.
Yeah.
I mean, we can go on for hours. We'll still talk, but after the recording.
Yeah, I was like, I tried to come in without things, but there was things I was like wanted to talk about. But I didn't talk about any of them. So you're
gonna have to come back again then,
or something. You know, dude, let's figure out. We should do a hike. Try to figure out how to do a podcast on a hike.
Dude, I have wireless mic.
What? Yeah.
All right, next one then.
Weird.
Next one we'll hike.
Let's see if we get tech with that.
Right on, man. Well, thank you guys for taking the time to listen to this. And until next time, see ya.
Late.